Hi, welcome to my GLP-1 journey. My name is Rebecca, and I started on Zepbound a few weeks ago, and I wanted to document my progress. And maybe somebody else wants to follow along. If you want to watch somebody go through this with you, or if you're thinking about doing it, this might help. It might be helpful. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself. So, I have been overweight my entire life. Not as much as I thought, looking back at pictures, but I was even overweight through high school. And really, the only time I was thin in my life was when I moved out of my parents' house, away from my mother's cooking, and I moved into the dorms. And I dropped probably 15 pounds, and I was down to about 114, maybe 113, somewhere in there. I was wearing a size 6, and I really didn't do anything. It's just I didn't have money for food, and I was busy, and I didn't have a car. I had a bicycle, so I was biking to work and biking all over campus, and anywhere I wanted to go, I hopped on my bike. And so I did. I dropped 15, maybe 20 pounds, and I felt great. But then I got older, and I had a baby, and for many years, and during my 20s, probably, I got up to about 180, and I stayed there for a long time. And I wasn't happy with that, but I wasn't unhappy either. I could still find things to wear. It didn't interfere in my life. I was fine. But then I had another baby, and after that, the weight kept coming on. Even though I didn't gain a lot with that pregnancy, after that pregnancy, I just kept gaining weight. And I would do something to lose the weight, and then it would just come back. And I finally got, about 10 years ago, I was up to about 225, 230, and I was very uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable in my body, and it wasn't necessarily an aesthetic thing. It was more that it was harder to tie my shoes. It was more uncomfortable sitting in certain chairs. Traveling was very uncomfortable, squeezing into a little airplane seat. And I thought something has to change. I really needed to do something. And so I did. I went on a serious eating plan, high protein. I used protein shakes, dense nutrition, and ate cleaner. And I did. I lost about 60 pounds maybe, and I was feeling great. And then things changed in my life. A lot of things changed in my life. And eventually I hit a plateau, and then I just couldn't maintain it. And then so I started gaining weight again. And in about 2018, after I had already gained some weight, I had an issue with my legs. I was in excruciating pain. I won't go into all of it. And even though I got better as time went on, I didn't ever really recover. And then the pandemic hit, and everything was Netflix and chill or something like that. And I was good with that. And I gained more weight. And probably by 2023, I was up to where I had been and more. And I was very uncomfortable. And traveling is difficult. Just getting through an airport was difficult, between my knees in constant pain, and the weight, and my size, and not fitting in places, and just being uncomfortable. And about a year ago, I said, I've got to do something. And I spoke to a doctor, and she ordered some blood tests, and then had some things going on in my life, and I didn't get back to her, even though she was willing to prescribe at that time Wegovy, because I knew that was on my insurance. And then she left the practice, and I found another doctor, and I said, I really want to do something about my weight specifically. And she looked at me And she said, well, if you go on these drugs, you're going to be on them for the rest of your life. And I thought, okay, so I take a shot once a week for the rest of my life, or I stay fat and uncomfortable for the rest of my life. Either way, it's a lifelong sentence, right? And I didn't say that though. And I said, I understand. And we basically wrapped up that visit, and I didn't go back to her. And then I found another doctor, and I said, look, she had my blood work by then and everything. And so did the first doctor, or the second doctor that I mentioned. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I have found out that Zepbound and Wegovy are both covered under my insurance. I would really, I think I should give them a try. And she says, oh, you want Zepbound? And I'm like, okay. And then she said, she was looking at my blood work, and she asked me a couple more questions, and I said, I think maybe I should do this. And she said, Rebecca, she said, you are 60 years old. You are not on any daily medications, not for blood pressure or anything like that. She says, you're not on any daily medications. She said, I would like to keep you that way. And I was thrilled. It was like a hallelujah moment. Here was a doctor that was willing to help me on this journey and be excited about it with me. And so she called in the prescription, and it took about a week to get my prior authorization done. They authorized it. And during that week, I bought a scale, because I don't have a scale in the house. Well, I do now, because I bought one. I downloaded my Fitness Pal app on my phone, and it had my information from 10 years ago. So it already had my stuff in there. And what else did I do? I bought a little thing of Dulcolax, because I've heard, horrible constipation stories. And I wasn't sure what else to do. And I ordered my shakes. So I had those in the house, and I took my first shot on June 24th, 2025. And I weighed myself for the first time that morning. First time in over a year. And I was 249. And I thought, well, here we go. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm going to hopefully check in once a week. And I hope you join me. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.